Adrian Griffin is no longer the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks in a shocking move on Tuesday. The Bucks, who had that time were 30-13, decide to let go of first-year head coach AG after 43 games. There's a report out there, though not yet confirmed at the time of this recording, that Doc Rivers, who of course has been consulting with Adrian Griffin, reportedly, after, of course, taking that job at ESPN this year, ESPN decided to get rid of Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson and go with Doris Burke and Doc Rivers. It never made any sense to me. As much as people want to hate on JVG and MJ, I thought, them two, along with Mike Breen, obviously, provided a really insightful broadcast. I don't have a ton to say about the four-letter network because of the fact that I think they've done a lot of wrong decisions over the last decade, and one of those being getting rid of that three-man tandem in the booth. Nonetheless, it sounds like that Doc Rivers is going to come out of the booth to coach his Milwaukee Bucks team. Now, a lot of people are comparing this to when Tyronn Lue took over from David Blatt for the Cavs in that 15-16 season, though I think this is different circumstances. Tyronn Lue was on David Blatt's staff, Doc Rivers was not. This is the second year in that equation of the LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love big three. This is the first year of sort of the Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo big two. And yes, they're not as good defensively, but that was expected when you give up Drew Holiday. Obviously for Damian Lillard, but Milwaukee felt like they need a more offensive punch, and Milwaukee has been a very aggressive organization over the last few years. Obviously, re-signing Giannis Antetokounmpo, getting Damian Lillard in a trade, moving off Coach Bud. Now they get Adrian Griffin. No moving off, excuse me, Adrian Griffin reportedly for Doc Rivers. And this Bucks team wants to do everything in their power to make sure they get Giannis Antetokounmpo another NBA championship. And when they made the Damian Lillard move, yes, they got rid of a ton of assets, but in the NBA, more than any other sport, we've seen this in the NFL a little bit, but I think it's even more prevalent in the NBA. Taking big swings work. Now, with that being said, as I talked about the other day when we had Joel Embiid and Karl-Anthony Towns, Embiid putting up 70, Cat scoring 62. I said I was not impressed really by either of those performances. And the reason being because in today's NBA, we have so much talent. The talent pool is as deep as ever, and scoring, especially in the regular season, is more easier than ever. A lot more fouls are being called, defense is being played less. It's more about the 3-point shot and layups. Where in the postseason, it's a 7-game series. The veterans really lock in. The coaching matters more. The defense is better. The whistle is not being blown as much. You can make adjustments because it is a 7-game series. So, in retrospect, the postseason has become a different sport as opposed to the regular season. Though where the regular season does matter is historically, if you are not a top three seed in the NBA, you're not going to win the NBA championship. To this point, I don't feel like Milwaukee has underachieved. They are the second best team in the East, but it did sound like that Damian Lillard and those Bucks players were not bought into Adrian Griffin. It sounded like Lillard struggled with the offensive scheme. Of course, to Terry Scott, who was Damian Lillard's former head coach in Portland, was with the Milwaukee staff at the beginning of the season and ended up essentially quitting after a disagreement with AG. So that could have been a potential sign right there. Again, Doc Rivers, he's kind of Andy Reid, I would say, in reverse, and I've said that for years. Andy Reid would make all these conference championship games slash the Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb, but could never pull through until he got Patrick Mahomes. Doc Rivers is the opposite. Doc Rivers got the championship first with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and that Boston Celtics team. And then other places he's gone, whether it's been the Clippers or the Sixers, he just has not been able to break through in series. He's had multiple 2-0 leads. He's won the most 3-1 leads in NBA history. And so can he right the ship with the Milwaukee Bucks will be the big question. This is obviously a huge year for Damian Lillard and Giannis. After the way Milwaukee went out last year, the only game they won against Miami in the first round was the game where Giannis did not play. Jimmy Butler significantly outplayed the 2021 NBA Finals MVP in that series. And for Damian Lillard, there's one reason only why he left Portland and why he should have did it 5, 6 years ago, and that's to go win a championship. So this team is still good. They got good bigs and Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, obviously, to support. They still have very good players. I think they have more playoff experience, and that will help them against Boston, as you cannot trust Jason Tatum, in my opinion, in the big moments. So I still think, even though they are the number 2 seed, even though Boston does have a 3.5 game lead on them for the number 1 seed at the time of this recording, Milwaukee should still probably be the favorite to make it out of the East. But this move with Adrian Griffin, it may not be fair to him because a lot of people are going to be asking questions about his job. It may be harder for him to get a second head coaching job, but we know there are two types of head coaches in the NBA. There are the head coaches that can take, lesser, younger talent and sort of groom them, which I think Adrian Griffin sort of fits in that category. Then there's the head coach that works with veteran players, that works with championship ready players, that's not so good with kids. I think Doc Rivers fits more in that category, and I think that's the category Milwaukee is obviously in. So we'll see if the move works out. I just don't think Adrian Griffin was ready for this job, but I did not think it was fair to let him go after 43 games unless there was a real rift in the Milwaukee Bucks organization, which it sounds like. But whether it's Doc Rivers or whether it's another coach, we will not truly know the result, if this was a good move or not, until we see this Bucks team make the NBA Finals. When the trade was made with Damian Lillard, I said I don't think Milwaukee needs to win the championship this year, but I do think they need to get back to the NBA Finals for that trade to be worth it. And I'm sticking to my guns on that.
Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.